After regaining freedom, they were immediately moved to the government house clinic in Ilorin for urgent medical care. Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, who visited the victims, commended President Bola Tinubu for the swift support that led to their rescue. He, however, stressed that it is not yet a moment for celebration until other abductees in Kebbi and Niger states are also rescued.
We thank President Bola Tinubu for his hands-on approach to bringing them back home. As you can see, he did not go to the G20 just to pay attention to this, and we can't say much until they're debriefed, and the security agencies, we thank them a lot. The director of DSS was directly in the field, leading from the front. Thank the National Security Advisor. All the agencies coordinated properly in having this done. You can see that within a short period they were out. Now, it's not time to celebrate yet because we still have the issues of Kebbi and Niger.
One of the freed abductees, Bamidele Emmanuel, recounts their ordeal in the hands of the bandits.
It was unimaginable because when we got there, we really know that it was a dominated area by these evil people called bandits. Even they have the courage to tell themselves that we are bandits. And they make us know that there's no one that can just slip away without being caught. And with what we see, nobody can escape. From that place they have dominated. They've knew all the routes surrounding all those bushes within Kwara and other states.
We are so glad to see our people back live, and we appreciate the governor of the state. We appreciate everybody for this great job. One of the authorities on the way coming. We thank God of Christ Apostolic Church.
They are expected to be reunited with their families after they are stabilized. Ibrahim Alige, TVC News, Ilorin.
All the 38 people abducted in Kwara State have been released. That's the breaking news we'll follow in this time. And all of this is happening in the North Central. You are the senior special assistant to the president, community engagement, North Central. What is wrong with the region?
Okay, thank you so much. First, let me congratulate Mr. President for, acting on his word and making sure that the adopted kidnappers' victims from Kwara State have been released, and also 51 out of the 315 students that have been kidnapped in Niger State have also been released as well. This shows that the president is committed in making sure that every citizen in Nigeria is safe and secure. So that's a plus to us. The new dimension that we're facing has been basically based on the new narrative that we've been having from the global stage about people being kidnapped or about Christian genocide. Let me run you through some data from 2001 to 2023. About 1,571 people have been kidnapped in Niger State, but you never heard about the religious dimension of it. And lately, you're hearing that Catholic students are being kidnapped. It's because of the negative narrative or perception that we have a Christian genocide. I now see the bandits and the terrorists leveraging on that. Most of the people in the high DP counties in Niger State are Muslims, and people are not talking about it.
Well, but before we go into that now, the North Central region now appears to be the epicenter of these recent kidnappings, of even the farmer header clashes we have seen in the past, and all of these attacks on communities. Yeah, it's not as if North Central has now been the capital of terrorists or bandits. It's because North Central has been channeled as the zone that we have Christian genocide. We have more killings in the Northeast. We have more killings in the Northwest, but because of the attention of the numbers of killings of Christians, that's why you have more attention to North Central. And because of the new development of terrorist group hanging around Kogi State and Kwara State, who have not been there before, have brought the new development of the kidnappings and all the things you're seeing. So it had never been there before. Not the ungoverned forests in Kogi, Yaba East, Yaba West are now being occupied by bandit action, which we didn't see in the last decade. For Plateau State and Benue State, there have been decades of crisis from 2001 to today. So their own crises have been there
from that, from that time up to this moment. So it's not as if the crisis is just occurring or North Central is now on the front page. It's because of the new narrative that we have on the global stage, tagging Nigeria as having high level of Christian genocide coming from Benue State and Plateau State. Of course, the people in Benue State are majorly Christians, and the people in Plateau State are majorly Christians as well. That's why when you see the levels of killings that is happening are majorly affected by the Christian community. But that doesn't mean that the Muslim community in those states are not also.
And that doesn't mean they were particularly targeted because of their religion.
Yes, they are not targeted. But now we have given other bandits the narrative to now start targeting Christians, just to prove to the global state that no, it's actually Christians that are being targeted, which I think it has exposed our vulnerability. We shouldn't classify killings based on religions alone. We should classify it based on what is happening and who is responsible for it. We can call it a spade, and not classify it in religious dimension.
Well, indeed, the government also acknowledges that there is a problem. These killings, these violent attacks are happening. Yes. Nobody is denying the fact. But more worrisome is the fact that before a lot of these things happen, there are intelligence reports. Even what happened in Niger State, also Kwara State and some parts of the country, there are intelligence reports, but what happens? What do we do with this intelligence? It seems we get the intelligence report, but stopping it from happening is the problem. Why so?
No, that's why we keep it. Okay, well, what happened in Yellow West also faced that kind of, issue where there was intelligence report about people that are going to attack, and there was attack, and, it took even after a week for somebody to be arrested, which I think the president called out when he visited Benue State, that the IG should make sure that somebody is being held responsible because it was a brutal attack. And it shows a high level of, negligence that we have from the security team to make sure that for a week of an occurrence, over 200 people died and nobody was arrested. But by now, we have already have a lot of arrests. In Plateau State, the military have arrested over 1,500 people that have been attached to a criminal offense. So we're changing the narrative. We're also encouraging the community to give us intelligence reports as soon as they get it. So with the creation of my office community engagement, we've set up community peace structures in Kogi State, Benue State, and Plateau State because of the nature of the occurrences that have been happening lately, for the community to get closer to us and give us intelligence as soon as it's happening, so that we can help the security agency with the relevant information. We also train them about intelligence gathering, communication skills, so that they know what to do, how to identify small little problems that we can escalate into higher level for analysis and also reporting. So we've encouraged communities at different levels. We've trained stakeholders from the traditional leaders to the NCWS leader to the Farmers Association to the MAGBA group, all of them together to understand the importance of giving us intelligence reports as soon as they get it.
Let me understand something now. You're talking about getting intelligence report. Yeah. Are you saying that in most cases, some of these intelligence reports are intercepted by the locals, the civilians? So what happens now is what they do with it, maybe passing it on to the security agencies. Are you saying that not all of this intelligence report gets to the security agencies?
Yeah, it doesn't get to security agencies on time, because we also interface with security agencies and say, okay, we need them to be open up, because everything that happens in insecurity happens in the community. And the community must have seen a sign, or somebody has seen a stranger moving around. Just let the security agency know. You have vigilantes groups that are working with the military agency. Let them know as soon as possible. And that's why we have created these community structures across all the local governments in those regions. We have 1,121 local government in North Central. We are going to set up those peace structures. For now, we've done Kogi and Benue and Plateau State. And also because of the peculiarity of the structure, of the crisis that have been happening. Some of the crises in Plateau State have gone out of hand because, it wasn't managed at the community level, and it wasn't referred to the early warning and early response team. So our community engagement office will have been able to identify and interface with the community and all the stakeholders to identify any crisis that can be mismanaged. For instance, okay, a farmer reported to us she painted that her crops were burnt, and we noticed that. We identified the criminal. The criminal was arrested, and make sure that compensations were made to her. If we didn't intervene in such a minor situation on time, it could lead to a bigger reprisal attacks, which we don't want to happen.
Okay, we have also seen in Plateau State now, you visited Plateau State, you interfaced with the locals there, and you also spoke to that prophet Dachocho, if I got that name correct. Prophet Ezekiel, recently I saw a statement from Prophet Ezekiel saying that, the federal government do not want him or is trying to stop him from speaking up because they are accusing him of exposing the federal government. And you are the federal government, you led the federal government delegation that visited Prophet Ezekiel. Did you at any point tell him not to speak up?
No, I'm not sure he was referring to me. So because he has had a lot of people that have engaged him. I've engaged him recently in the last 2 weeks to get his feedback on the current issues that were happening. So I don't think nobody is asking him not to speak up, because from our own interaction, we actually engage him for him to share exactly what is going on. So the federal government cannot stop it. But, I'm being careful about and curious about the sentiments he's putting around some of the crises in the Plateau State has been because of the structure of the Muslim people within the federal government, or because this is what happened to Goodluck and they are trying to make it happen, or because we removed the former CDS. It's been sentiment that I don't think should come out from a reverend that understands what is happening. And coming from somebody like me that have a security report on what is going on in the community, you can't tell me the crisis in Plateau State is just based on Christian genocide. I can't take it, because I converse with people from different groups. I relate with the native and I relate with the Mieti Halagu. Everybody within the community, we relate with them. And the governors actually know. And you could see the governor of Benue State coming out and saying that there's no Christian genocide in the state. That's why the fact that it's a reverend. It's a reverend.
But some people say that's just political statements.
It can
the
be
governor trying to be politically correct as the chief security officer of the state.
Yeah.
He must also understand how to manage information, not necessarily saying everything as it is.
Yeah, because number one, like you said, it is chief security officer of the state. For instance, currently now managing a crisis in Guma and Goe West, Goma local government and Goe West. About 100 cows have been killed. I've related to the locals and asked them what exactly is the issue. And they said, no, we don't know how this agitation started, that they're trying to identify the criminals. So if you don't manage such a crisis, it could get out of hand. That is not a religious dimension to a crisis. An offense has been made. You should arrest those criminals. And that is why you see the governors coming down and say, this is not a religious genocide, because he has evidence report of security issues in his state on both sides. So you can't rule out that fact with him, because he knows that. And I'm also occupying that position because I have security report in both communities across the North Central. When it comes to Kwara, I could also say the people affected in Ekiti, Patigi local government, Eastern local government, Edo local government in Kwara are all Yorubas. The people that are being kidnapped in Yagba East, Yagba Hills are all Yorubas. Should I now come out with my sentiment and say Yorubas have been affected, or the Gala or the Gay or the Egbira people are killing our Yorubas? It won't be nice. But that's the fact. If you see the numbers of the 38 people that were killed in Kwara State are all Yorubas. So I could come out and share my own sentiment, but it will not be reasonable. It will not be in a good shape for country to go and keep promoting their sentiment based on religion or based on tribe. And that's what we are trying to say. As a chief security officer of the state, he has the report. Now he has seen the report of the hundreds of cows that have been killed and nobody has been arrested. And if it's not being managed, it could lead to other personal attack. It's for us to understand that, different from the people out there, some of us knows the real issue. And the most difficult times I've actually interfaced with people is when a group asks me to liaise with other group and say, let them release the cops when somebody was beheaded. And say, please, ma, can you ask the other group to release the cops? Because we are trying to manage a crisis. That's the most difficult moment of my life. And when somebody comes out there and say, it's just based on religious alone, and when you know both sides are committing atrocity, in any event that will go to set up community peace structure, the first question we ask the community, from the Mieti Halagu, the Markman, the traditional leaders, I ask them one simple question. If you are very sure, traditional leader, that in your community there are no bad eggs, raise up your hand. Nobody will raise up their hand. I ask the Mieti Halagu group, in your group, are you so sure that everybody in your group, in your community they have never committed any atrocity, raise up your hand? Nobody. And I said, that's the time
they know the people in their communities,
they know the people
committing these atrocities.
Yes.
And they shield them from security agencies.
Yes.
So how do we fix that? How do we get them to become responsible and accountable?
That's what we're saying, that they should be open up to let us know what are the issues. So before any attack, I can say for Plateau State or for major states, before any attack, there must be something. Like I said, Plateau State have experienced historical mistrust, historical grievance. Nobody trusts themselves. I've seen an attack where they said, the Fulani called me and said, 30 cows have been poisoned. Before we got there, I said, where are the 30 cows? We want to go and test them. They are nowhere to be found. I said, if you continue like this, nobody will believe you. People will think that you poisoned the cows yourself. And before you know it, other people were killed. And we had to start interfacing. How did we get to this part? But if you don't have people who are honest and say, this is what happened. Like, for instance, for what we are managing in Benue State, and the governor was able to put it out there that, no, this is not a Christian genocide, because he knows what is going on both sides. So if you don't have people who are true to power and say, this is exactly what is happening, then you don't have any chance to settle those problems. Now we have relegated our army to start solving the problem of, oh, you killed my cow, we'll go and arrest cows. I mean, arresting cows. These are things that they should not be doing. But because if they don't manage such cases or just crisis, at that point, it could lead to a higher, bigger crisis. And that's why we keep emphasizing on early warning, early response, so that crises are being managed. And peculiarly, it's both in Benue and Plateau State. What happened in Yelewata was a criminal is different, and it's pure land grabbing. Yelewata is a very fertile land. It's pure land grabbing. It's a criminal offense and banditry action, which I think the president actually made mention of, and criminals should be arrested and killed if they have committed.
There's also a narrative that, there's always a collusion or like a collaboration with a local of a community before some of these attacks are carried out. As somebody who have engaged with these communities now, especially those severely affected by or severely ravaged now, is this narrative true that in some cases there is also always a collusion with some people, some locals?
Absolutely. I've interfaced in a community where the chief actually collected money from a Fulani man to come and settle in the community without letting the community know. And by the time he saw the number of people that came, he thought it was just a 4-family group, but we saw 4 trailers. We had to collect the money back from the chief, gave it back to the man that they gave the money for, and send those people away that they can't settle in this prison. So because you have people like that who are meant to be the traditional leaders, who are meant to protect. For instance, the document that the Reverend gave me actually have something similar. You are stating, okay, this was a genocide that happened in 2010, right? And, in his statement, you said, in the first page, you said, okay, they came through a neighboring village just east. There's a relationship with these people in just east. Well, they are alleging that there's a relationship. So things like that do happen without you acknowledging that this is actually going on. You said, no, it's just Christian genocide. Let's go back to the root causes and say, how did we get to where we are? And he said, and the suspected they have been hosted for a few days before the launch, because they didn't just come to your community. Just pass through. This is the hundreds of people, right? They didn't just pass through. So they must have slept or negotiated with the neighboring community for them to be able to attack those communities.
Are these attackers foreigners?
They are within. Sometimes they bring foreigners where the Fulani militias to come and attack them. Both sides use that, which we have, which I've identified as a major issue based on the porous borders. And, because now Plateau has borders with we have Taraba, we have other neighboring states. So it makes it easier for people to just penetrate. And there are sometimes an attack happens maybe in southern Kaduna, and the offense, the criminality is taken in Plateau State because of porous border. Because you have bandits, criminals who are coming in and they are not part of the groups living in your community, but they come once in a while just because maybe they have a mission, or one of the group members or one of the diverse community invited them to come. So we need just to be honest with ourselves. And there are other things that are really harboring or raising those issues which we are not also addressing. So it's really something very so irrelevant for us to say everything that is happening in the North Central is a religious-based issue. No.
Well, there's also a distrust, of the military and security agencies. We've also seen the calls for people to defend themselves. In Plateau State, for instance, we've seen some communities say that, when they are attacked, sometimes in their vulnerable state, and when they decide to take up arms to defend themselves, it is the people who have taken up arms that are then rounded up by security agents arrested and paraded as the criminals.
Yeah, proliferation of arms in the North Central region has been one of the issues that I've identified. And in the last North Central Peace Summit that I held in Jos, where I called the former Chief of Defense Staff to be there, I had a fireside chat with the former Chief of Defense Staff where I asked him critical questions. And one of the questions was about the proliferation of arms. A lot of people have arms. You are in the farm, you're having arms. You are running cattle, you're having arms. You are mining, you're having AK-47. How did we get to that?
But isn't that also a reflection of the state of insecurity? Everyone wants to be safe.
Yeah, it's not about everyone wants to be safe, it's just
And also a failure of security agents to protect the civilian population. That's why everyone is beginning to take up arms to defend themselves.
Really, we won't say that, because for us, everybody that carries arms should be a criminal. If we can get to that level and say, if we see you with arms, because the security agency have put it forward to all the civilians, once we see you with AK-47 with arms that you're not supposed to carry, we'll treat you as a criminal. That's how it should be. We shouldn't call it any names. And nobody should try and say, okay, we want to defend ourselves and not cause another level of criminality. We won't be able to curtail that. But once you're seen carrying arms, you are a criminal, you should be treated as that. There's no forgiveness in my own dictionary. You should be treated like a criminal.